And welcome back to the Debt Row Pod, an eventful week 1 and 2 in the books in the National Football League. My name is Davidson Baker. To my right, Bradley Davis. Right below me, Josh Sears. Brad, how's the game last night, man? I know you had a great time at the bank in Carolina.
Yeah, me and Tristan, we had a great time last night. Full of hype. It was Carolina's home opener, so a lot of energy in the stadium. Thankfully, we came out with a win, so that was nice. But it was a fantastic time.
Josh, how was your week 2?
Not bad, not bad. Busy weekend. Missed a few night games. Had to go catch back up on them today, but excited to get to talking about them.
There's no doubt I'm excited as well. A lot of action this weekend, and we start with the Sunday night game in Foxborough. A couple things I'll say right off rip about this game. I have a feeling I'm going to be very wrong about Miami for a lot of reasons and in a lot of facets. I think that this defense is a little bit better than they led to believe in week 1 against the Chargers. I think that on offense, they can get you chunk plays at any time. It's always going to be tough being in sync the whole time against a Bill Belichick coach defense, but I thought for the most part they played controlled. They were never not in control of this game. They were never not in control of this game from jump. And you have those two Ferraris to throw into both of them, talking about Tyreek Hill and talking about Jalen Waddle. It's a long day for any defensive coordinator all week long having to prepare for those two, Josh.
Yeah, and not only having to prepare for those two, but also whatever kind of wacky schemes Mike McDaniel's going to throw at you. He had some phenomenal ways that you've got those two guys that can get themselves open already. But then when you have Mike McDaniel scheming ways to get those guys open, that's how you see them running just completely wide all the time. I thought they did a phenomenal job of mixing in different types of motion, getting ways, because their offensive line's nothing to write home about. But Mike McDaniels does a great job of scheming guys open so Tua can get the ball and facilitate it quickly, which he's really good at. Tua has his limitations, but he knows how to run an offense, and he, at this point, feels like he has a complete and full grasp on that offense and has mastered it. So that was my biggest takeaway from the Miami side of things in this game. As well as I thought Tua played, I actually thought Mac played better. I know that's probably a little bit of a hot take to some because a lot of people were trashing the way Mac played in this game. I thought he played phenomenally. He only missed on a handful of throws from when I went back and rewatched the game. A lot of play calling I don't love by Bill O'Brien. Why are we calling screen passes to Juju Smith-Schuster multiple times? That's not really Juju's game. He's not the kind of guy you want just in open field space trying to make a play with the ball in his hands.
No.
So that kind of befuddled me. But Mac did some nice jobs creating because the offensive line wasn't great. He made some plays out of nothing. I believe the touchdown pass to Hunter Henry. You've also got 3 wide receivers of the exact same body type and skill set. You really need a change of pace receiver in New England. I think that would help that offense tremendously. But they're not out of this playoff race in the AFC, I'm afraid. Even though they're 0-2 to start, they're going to be there. They're going to be in contention all the way to the end, I think, for a playoff spot.
I definitely don't think they're going away either at all. Brad, did you see the play where Schooler came sprinting from the side, like the New England
for the
special
block,
teams player,
the block kick,
sprinting from the side and like across to
I've never seen anything like that. That was pretty cool to see. Kind of changes the game a little bit of how coaches will look at blocking the field goal attempt. I caught a little bit of this game Sunday night. My biggest takeaways from this game were the same thing as last week for the Dolphins. They protected Tua. I think that's the key to the Dolphins' success moving forward with their offense. That was a big thing last year. Tua couldn't really stay healthy, so they weren't really able to keep that efficiency in terms of their offensive play. So They only allowed 1 sack last night. Last Sunday night. So that's, really big for the Dolphins, making sure that Tua does not get in harm's way. The defensive side for the Dolphins, they played a lot better, actually, in terms of rush defense. They only allowed, let's see here. Yeah, so so they allowed 3.5 yards a pop for the whole New England's rushing team, which is really solid, especially when you go up against guys like Ezekiel Elliott and Ramad Stevenson. So really solid on their part, especially from the last game where they played the Chargers, where they gave up like 32 yards rushing or something like that. It was absurd, but good on their end to kind of build off on a new kind of reset on their rushing defense. The Patriots, I will say, I thought Mac Jones played a lot better in the second half than he did in the first half. He kind of came out and kind of rallied the team back. But I thought Tua had the better first half when it came to the quarterback play. But to me, the biggest takeaways were Miami's rush defense. I thought they held up their own, especially coming off the game against the Chargers, where they gave up like 232 yards passing, and Tua only getting sacked once. That's to me, that's the biggest key for the Dolphins to succeed moving forward.
96 times, so do the math, 42 times this week and 54 times last week. Mac Jones threw the ball. That's a lot in 2 games. That's a lot.
That's one thing that concerned me also this week is there's not a lot of juice in that backfield. Ramondre doesn't look like the same guy he looked like last year, and we all know what Zeke is at this point in his career.
Yeah.
They had a whole drive where they just featured Zeke. I thought that was strange. Just Zeke, no Ramondre.
Again, like I
what are we
said,
doing here?
I'm very confused by some of the personnel decisions and play calling with Bill O'Brien. I think personnel decisions are a big theme of this week too. I noticed that when watching a lot of these games. I don't really understand
they couldn't finish
what
drives.
we're doing with certain guys.
Yeah.
They couldn't finish drives at all, Brad.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was I thought New England would be able to come into this game and kind of establish the run a little bit more than they did week 1 against the Eagles. Because, we saw the Dolphins give up so much yards to the Chargers in terms of the ground game. So it was surprising that Stevenson kind of struggled and Zeke really struggled too. But I'm not completely out of the Stevenson hype train. I think that he still has a lot of juice left in him. I don't know about Zeke. I think that his best days are kind of behind him at this point. So they're really going to have to rely on Stevenson to come in and week out to, elevate that run game. I thought this week would be a good week for them to actually start that, but apparently not. So, but you got to give credit to the Dolphins defense. They did a really good job of containing him and Zeke this past Sunday.
The reason I put this game in the leadoff spot is 2 things that people are saying already. Miami AFC Championship game, Tua MVP. Tua is now the favorite on most books to win MVP. I'm not ruling anything out. Miami covers the number -2. The under, not really the trend of the weekend, cashed. Yeah. A game where the over cashed last night in Pittsburgh, the former ketchup bottle. Pittsburgh covers 1.5 and wins outright, 26-22. Acrisure, I'm pretty sure is how it's pronounced.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's like some insurance company, I'm pretty sure. Over 37 was never in doubt. The craziest stat, I don't know if I'm getting baited, but I saw this on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Pittsburgh didn't have a fucking snap inside of the Browns' 30-yard line. Not one. Not one. When you think about it, the 3 touchdowns were all either on defense or from the other end of the field, and they kicked a field goal and they kicked 2 field goals and missed an extra point. So when were they across the 30-yard line? They weren't at all.
They weren't.
Not one time.
Another crazy stat is they're now 22-0 in their last 22 Monday Night Football games.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
And make it 15-0 or 15-0, I believe, at home against Cleveland in the regular season now in a row, 15 in a row.
Yeah, 22 straight Monday Night Football wins is just absurd.
Yeah, that's
how
wild.
do you do that?
I don't know.
But this game was very, very interesting. Pittsburgh had no business winning this game. They really had no business winning this game. My biggest takeaway from this, though, Kevin Stefanski is going to be on the hot seat, especially with no Nick Chubb in the building anymore. That offense looked anemic without him out there.
With all your money you're paying to Watson, like who's going first? The coach or the quarterback? Coach. Every time.
Every single time. Also,
Every time.
I don't know. After watching this game a little bit closer, like, don't get me wrong, Deshaun was not good. But Stefanski's calling plays like he's still got Baker Mayfield back there. Like,
yeah, I think the play calling is very conservative a lot of the time.
Play action passing and straight drop backs. That's not Deshaun's game. That's not what he does. Stefanski's cutting the field in half and trying to create simple reads like he's got a first or second year quarterback. And that's not what you have with Watson.
And the big story here,
for sure. The whole field.
And the big story here, obviously, Nick Chubb. If you didn't watch it, don't go back and watch it again. It's a bad,
not good.
Yeah, it's not good
sight. He is easily done for the season. This changes Cleveland's outlook, of course, going forward. Brad, what was your takeaway here?
Definitely that. Losing Nick Chubb is a huge blow to this offense. He's one of my favorite running backs in the league. So to see him go out in a very, brutal injury like that, especially with him dealing with that in college too, it's awful to see from him. I did think Jerome Ford came in and kind of filled that role a little bit better than I anticipated. But for the whole night, it just seemed like the Cleveland's offense was just struggling. I mean, they gave up 6 sacks, which, when you're playing against TJ Watt, you're bound to get a lot of pressure. But 6 sacks is quite a bit to give up to that Steelers defense, who didn't really do much the week 1 against the 49ers. So nice to see the Steelers defense come in and kind of get their momentum back in terms of their defensive play. I didn't think Kenny Pickett had all that great of a game either. He kind of struggled too, barely. I don't even think he even completed 50% of his passes. I think if so, it was like barely 50%. Najee Harris continues to show that this backfield might not be his very soon. I think Jaylen Warren kind of played really solid, and especially in the receiving game too. He had a really nice game, 4 receptions for 66 yards. But I think the biggest takeaway here for me is the Browns offense. Like I said, I think with Jerome Ford coming in, I think that he filled that role after Chubb had gotten injured. But it was the offensive line for me for the Browns, giving up 6 sacks, not protecting Deshaun Watson. That's going to get him in some areas where he's going to feel uncomfortable and start making mistakes that he doesn't want to. But for the most part, this game kind of seemed like a defensive game. I didn't get to watch a whole lot of the game, but it is worrisome because you look at Deshaun Watson's contract and he is getting all that money and he's not performing the way that he should be.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
You said, like you said, Stefanski, if they continue to struggle, which I talked about in the preview, the Browns always, tend to disappoint. So I'm not entirely too shocked, but it is week 2. So I'm not going, hitting
they
panic
had no
buttons
business
super
losing
quick.
this game too.
No, they should
have won this game.
Like you said, if Deshaun doesn't have those turnovers, they were in field position to score some points. So a lot of those turnovers, cost them a great deal in the game. But I don't know. It is week 2, but it is concerning to see how. And especially last Sunday, the Browns gave up, 3 sacks as well. So the offensive line isn't really looking that great in terms of the pass protection. But yeah, I liked what Pittsburgh's defense did last night. But for the most part, it was Browns offensively struggling quite a bit.
Yeah, like you said about Najee. He at this point he really shouldn't be seeing the field unless Jaylen Warren needs a break.
Yeah.
He had 10 carries for 43 yards, but one of those was a 21-yard carry, and the other one I think was like an 18-yard carry on a couple missed tackles in the backfield. He
Yeah.
looks very slow, indecisive.
Mhm.
He's not hitting the hole. Jalen Warren only had 6 carries for 20 yards, but he also had 4 catches for 66 yards. I mean,
Yeah.
about the same amount of touches and way more production from Jalen Warren. He is the lead back in that offense, or he should be the lead back in that offense.
I agree.
Yeah.
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 And the Deshaun Watson topic, they
Yeah.
need to figure out
We got to
the
talk about
wide
that.
receiver 2 thing
Yeah.
because it's not Elijah Moore and it's not Donovan Peoples-Jones.
So far,
Mhm.
David
So
Bell looks
far,
better
it's
than
2
both of
games,
them in limited snaps.
but so far that's been the case. And here's just the question: what if this is who he is? Then what
They're
do
in
you do?
trouble.
That's
They're in
big
trouble. I mean,
Then it's over. Like the window
yeah.
is now. If he doesn't
Yeah.
work on this contract, the window is gone. Miles Garrett's not
Absolutely.
getting any younger. The defense overall is not getting any younger. I know that they're fairly
Mhm.
young right now,
Yeah.
but if Deshaun's not the answer, you're in a massive hole.
Yeah. I mean, especially what you're paying him, what you gave up for him, like
I mean,
you're
let me
talking
present
about
this to you.
years of regression in terms of like you got this guy because you thought he was going to come in and change your franchise, and if he's not doing that quickly, like if by like week 8 or 9 we're sitting here talking about Watson still struggling, there's going to be a lot of problems in Cleveland.
Would this team be better off right now with Baker at quarterback?
The way
I
he's
don't
playing right
know.
now, yeah.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
but
But
Watson's getting hit a ton. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Watson's getting hit a ton. Baker's
He's
not getting
also-
touched.
But here's the other
Yeah.
difference. Deshaun is holding on to the ball so long, which
He
has
is.
always
Mhm.
been a knock on him.
He is.
Which
We
is
gotta
another
press
reason
forward.
why you What
Yeah.
so we could stick on that game for a long time.
Yeah, there's a lot at play with what could happen with the Browns if he is just who he has
We'll
been
be
in the
back
first
on
2
that
weeks.
topic
Not
again.
good. Not
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I feel like
Washington
we probably
35,
will.
Denver 33. This game was wacky and wild for a lot of reasons. Big momentum shifts, but none really from the Broncos in the second half. Deep touchdowns in the first half. One of them to my boy Marvin Mims. Gets it done in the first half, at least. But then all of a sudden you just look up and it was 21-3, and all of a sudden you look up it's 21-10, and all of a sudden you look up it's 21-18 at the half. And then Washington just kind of ran with it and never looked back.
Mhm.
This game was actually not as close as the final score suggests. That freakish Hail Mary to, I think, Brandon Anderson in the end zone, but then
And it
you
could have
have
went to
the 2-point
overtime.
conversion
It
really
where it
could have,
should
yeah.
have went to overtime. I think. Do you guys agree that was clear and blatant pass interference in the end
pass
zone by
interference.
St. Juice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even close. Not even close.
Clearly and obviously pass interference. Both of these teams almost covered the total by themselves. 35-33. Defenses getting leaky in the back. Busted coverage is happening on both sides of the ball in this game. I thought I saw some good from Russ, though, as much as I hate to admit it. I thought I saw some good. I thought I saw some bad, but that offense was buzzing in the first half.
You saw some good if he's still a second, third year quarterback. But for a
They
guy you're
scored-
giving all that money to, you need him to elevate this team, and he's game
but that
managing at this
defense,
point.
that defense let them down in the second half.
It did. It
did.
But also
21 points.
it helps if your offense can move the ball and sustain a drive.
They scored 12 points in the second half.
Yeah, 6 of them on that Hail
21
Mary,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
They came into they came
they
in the
scored-
second half with 21 points, right?
Realistically,
Yeah, I'm not
they
trying to
scored
defend this
6
guy.
points in the second half.
Russell Wilson. No, but yeah, Washington definitely has something, I think, here, though. I mean, I don't know
Sam
how
Howell
good they
looked
are.
better. Sam Howell
Looks so
looked better.
good. Touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin was one of the better throws of the start of the season, honestly.
Yeah.
Just squeezing it in there.
If he continues to progress like this, Washington's got something there.
Agreed.
They've got some good weapons on offense in Scary Terry and Jahan Dotson, Brian Robinson
Diami
Jr., Diami Brown. Even Antonio Gibson can still give you some snaps here and there. And that defense is legit. I know they gave up 33 points, but that defense I still believe is legit. Chase Young is legit still. The secondary, Emmanuel Forbes is starting to look okay. He's going to continue to progress as a young defensive back. But I think this team shows a lot of upside in what is a very tough division, but they feel like they can hang around.
I feel like I agree with that. Do you, Brad?
Yeah. My biggest takeaway from this game is Eric Bieniemy showed that he should have a head coaching job. I thought their offense looked very good, especially in the second half. Him, getting Sam Howell in spots where he can make plays with his arm was a thing of beauty. We haven't seen that in Washington in a very long time, so that's pretty exciting to see Sam Howell actually stepping into his own and kind of becoming the quarterback that I think the Commanders need him to be. The Broncos defense, what a collapse! What a collapse in the second half. I could not believe it. It was especially with a defense that I talked about last week. This is the defense that should easily hold opponents to 20 points, and for them to come out in the second half and just let Washington just do whatever they wanted to, super surprising. I thought Russ played okay. Nothing special. If he didn't have that long Hail Mary, his stats would look very different compared to the final stat line. He did get sacked 7 times, so that offensive line to me does not seem like it improved much. And also Russell Wilson leading the team in rushing yards is not something that they want, especially with an old veteran quarterback like that. So very concerning on the Broncos offensive side. But I mean, hey, they pulled it together. They did, rally back in the second half to keep it close, but they had no business of letting Washington even come back on them, especially the way they were playing in the first half. So you got to give a lot of credit to Washington's offense. Sam Howell looked great. Brian Robinson looks really, really good as their lead back, especially with, going to the season. I think a lot of people thought Antonio Gibson was going to share a lot of the workload with them, but it seems like it is Brian Robinson's job in terms of the rush game. So, I was really impressed with Washington's offense in the second half.
Yeah, one of the more impressive stats on this stat sheet to me is that Sam Howell, he completed 27 passes to 10 different targets. So it's not like he's just funneling targets to Scary Terry or Jahan Dotson or somebody. He's spreading the ball around. He's running a legit offense. And out of a guy who was a 5th-round pick, that's impressive to see. He can run this offense, and he has a good grasp on it already to start the season, it seems like.
Really big. I mean, to be 2-0, especially in that division. Yeah. I can't stress that enough. Getting off to a good start, especially, where the Giants have kind of stumbled, lucky to be 1-1. We'll hit them later. But for now, we head to a little bit more of a snoozer in Jacksonville. Kansas City 17, Jacksonville 9. Then the under was never in doubt. You never even had to worry about it for a second from the moment this game kicked off, which is pretty wild between these two teams. Jacksonville came into this game talking chip on their shoulder, and they did not come out and play like it, Brad.
No. They were over 3 in the red zone. Surprisingly, I watched this game quite a bit Sunday. I was surprised by, the Jags, they could have kept this game a little bit closer than what it had been. But like I said, them going to 0-3 in the red zone was just, I couldn't believe it. Some of the play calling that they were doing inside, enemy territory was just, it was, I couldn't, like, especially, with Travis Etienne, I feel like, just hand it off to him. Like, they were at the 1-yard line. They're trying to throw, these little screen passes that are not doing anything. So I was very surprised by their lack of efficiency in the red zone, especially how they played against the Colts week 1. They capitalized a lot in the red zone. But you got to give the Chiefs credit. They came out and played defensively. Offensively for the Chiefs, I'm still questioning who their number 1 receiver is. Sky Moore had a pretty good game. Justin Watson actually had a pretty solid game for the amount of targets that he got. I thought he played pretty solid. But right now, I'm not like super impressed with any of their receivers right now, which was a big concern, I think, for all of us after the week 1 game against the Lions. Travis Kelce, he looked like, Travis Kelce, he came back and played kind of like how someone who has missed all of preseason and the first game of the season would play. He did have the touchdown. He could have had 2 touchdowns, but he dropped one near like the sideline of the end zone. But I expect him to continue to build and get back to the Travis Kelce that he always is. But and Pacheco had a pretty good game on the ground too. He was averaging 5.8 yards a carry, got 70 yards on 12 attempts. So that's good to see that their rushing game is slowly becoming a factor in this offense again. But yeah, for me, it was just Jacksonville. They not capitalizing in the red zone, missing opportunities to score and keep this game close.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly concerning when one of your first talking points from a receiving aspect is Justin Watson. That is
Yeah.
not good.
Doesn't
I had to give him props though. He did play
No,
a really
yeah,
good game. But I
definitely.
had
He
to give him
played a good
props.
game, but the fact that
Yeah.
he is your second leading receiver
Yeah.
and ahead of Travis Kelce, not good.
Mhm.
I thought Kadarius Toney looked better. Again, he's
Much
just
better.
a gadget guy.
Yeah.
He also
better.
should probably be your return man because Richie James ain't it.
Mhm.
Yeah, why not?
Why
not
is
have
he
him?
not it?
Yeah, why not
especially-
have Tony as the punt returner?
Oh, I thought you were asking why not
yeah.
have Rasheed Rice.
No.
Do you need me to go down that
No.
list of reasons?
No, why not make Tony the punt returner?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously one of your best playmakers in open space, so let's give him a chance to score the moment he touches the ball on a punt. He looked great in the screen game. Obviously, they don't trust him to go past the line of scrimmage to catch the football anymore. But yeah, get the ball in his hands. Let's hand him the ball some too. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a playmaker. Get him the ball any way you can, as long as it's not him having to catch it more than 5 yards down the field. But yeah, the play calling by Jacksonville in the red zone kind of concerned me, like you said, Brad. Also, when you have Travis Etienne needs to get the ball, but when you have a running back named Tank, maybe you should give him the ball on the goal line.
Yeah,
But I guess
probably.
after last week, I can understand the hesitation. Fumbled last week, right?
Yeah.
1, 2 fumbles.
Well, he
Just one.
fumbled on the play where he thought the play had been blown
the
dead.
play was dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
And there was a
He
play
had
where a
2
ball
boneheaded
tipped off his hands into the Colts for an interception that went to the
Yeah,
house. I'm pretty
so, I mean,
sure.
I can understand the hesitation, but you also got to get back to the guy at some point, right?
Which
Still scored a
surprisingly-
touchdown after
yeah.
both of those things happened. Though. That was
So
wild.
let's
Yeah.
give him some goal line touches when you're down there.
Yeah,
But-
Trevor
Surprisingly,
Trevor
he
looked
didn't
bad.
get any workload. Trevor looked bad.
Yeah.
You think Trevor looked bad?
I think some
I
of
mean,
that was just setting him up.
he didn't
for
look
failure.
great, but also he was very close to completing like 3 or 4 different passes in the very back of the end zone where guys were like 1 foot out of bounds. If the end zone was like a yard longer,
Yeah,
I would say that he would have
Yeah.
thrown
Had a
3
phenomenal
touchdowns
game.
in this
Yeah.
game.
and they win this
Yeah.
game.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
exactly.
they
They
win
win
this game.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
what 2 or 3 to Zay Jones, where
Yeah,
he
and they
just
were
dragged
both
the
just
toe
barely
in
out.
6.
Yep.
One of
But,
them was to Ridley too. Ridley looked like he had a catch, but then he hit the goal post.
Yeah,
I thought he
was
messed
up.
up his knee, but thankfully
I
he was
did
good.
too.
Yeah.
But yeah, in a game this close, there's no need for Trevor to have 41 pass attempts either.
They need Cam Robinson and Brandon Scherf back.
They
That's
also
what
need
I
to
gathered
commit
from
back
that
to the
game.
run game a little bit. You have
Mhm.
outside of Trevor's 5 attempts, you have 13 rushing attempts. It's not enough
that's not
balance
gonna
in your
do it.
offense.
Let's go to Jerry World.
Ugh.
The Cowboys
Oh,
slapped
boy.
the New York Jets 30-10.
Yeah.
You can say what you want about the quarterback in this game, but the defense made timely mistakes. Not timely plays, timely mistakes, talking about the New York Jets. 85 Bears. Let's slow our roll here a little bit. 30-10, the final. The Cowboys offense was very much in sync. I wonder why. I didn't watch a whole lot of just Gardner on CD Lamb. I didn't watch a whole lot of whether or not he only shadowed him for one play or if he shadowed him for more than that. Like, apparently he only shadowed him for one play.
I don't know. I want to go back and watch the all 22 of this game from both sides.
If that's really the case, though, why? Why is that happening? Because he was in control from the beginning of the game, Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb together. were connecting early and often.
Yeah. I don't know why you don't do that more. I don't know. I want to go back and watch the all 22 of this and look a little deeper at it before I talk too much about the matchups. But yeah, it's concerning if to have CD putting up those kind of yards on you. And if you weren't shadowing, why don't you go to it? But yeah, for me, the biggest takeaway from this game is the Jets' offense, which I think everybody was concerned was going to be a problem in this game. Obviously, Zach Wilson didn't play well, but you also never really set him up for a chance to do anything well. You're not committing to the run with Brees Hall. Dalvin Cook fumbles. Go figure. Yeah, just poor play design, which was my concern from the beginning with Nathaniel Hackett, especially not having Aaron Rodgers there to bail him out when they're not in the right play. So Nathaniel Hackett's got to be.
Come help me, Aaron.
Yeah, Hackett's got to be better. People can say what they want about Zach Wilson being the problem. The main problem right now is Nathaniel Hackett, in my opinion.
Easy to say that after last year. Look at that TOP down there at the bottom, too. Not a lot of long drives. That's a long time for your defense to be out on the field all day, Brad.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway. Listen, this Jets defense, it's capable of being a top 5 defense in the league. But when you have an offense that cannot move the ball at all, and you have a quarterback like Zach Wilson, who I know I talked about a little bit, I'm not confident in him. I don't think that he can be that guy to step up and unfortunately have to replace Aaron Rodgers. Like, obviously the Jets were not anticipating Rodgers being out for the year. They were anticipating him to be, their quarterback for this year and maybe next year, but for Zach Wilson to play this bad is very concerning for the offense and the defense because, like you said, having your offense out there for that long, eventually they're going to collapse. Eventually, it's going to be too much for them to handle, especially against the Dallas team that has the firepower to go out there and drop 30 points on you. To where Dak, if he plays against a defense that's starting to get worn down, he's going to drop 250 on you. I think it's very concerning for the Jets, and I think the Jets have a lot to question after this game and maybe going into the rest of the season with how they're going to handle this season if Zach Wilson continues to play like this. Because if he plays like this, I don't really see them winning a lot of games. So are they going to go out and maybe try to sign a vet? I don't know who. Like I said, I think the first week of the regular season, we talked about that when Rodgers went down. I didn't really know exactly who they would be able to go out and get. So I feel like their best option would be to trade for somebody. But it's just concerning for the Jets. Like I said, offensively and defensively. For the Cowboys, they played really good, especially going up against, like I said, potential top 5 defense. CD Lamb had a fucking game. Jesus Christ, he was just tearing up that defense all night long. Tony Pollard, I thought, had an okay game. He was only averaging 2.9 yards a carry off of 25 carries, which you don't want to see, especially, given that, the Dallas, run offense always seems to be very dominant, and especially their O-line. They're kind of built for that. So to see them only give, 2.9 yards a carry to your lead back is a little bit concerning. But for the most part, I think they came in, handled business. They, made Zach Wilson create turnovers, which led them to, kind of control the game for all 4 quarters.
Yeah, I think that they just looked so poised the entire game. I think they looked like they were in control of every drive they took the field on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 31 of 38 for Dak, and the 11 receptions for CD on 13 targets. Pollard, not a whole lot of yards per carry, but also added 37 through the air as well. If you're the Jets, man, I mean, you've got an opponent next week that has beaten you 14 times in a row in the regular season in the New England Patriots, and you're a home underdog to the 0-2 Patriots. They are home dogs +3. Stay tuned. Seahawks, Lions. Final via overtime, 37-31. I thought this was the worst officiated game of the week. I thought that there were some ticky-tack calls on Detroit early and often. I also think that there was a clear holding penalty that they did not call on Hutchinson in overtime. And, throughout the game, it was very inconsistent. The Seahawks did finally look like they got it clicking on offense, though. Their offense looked dead in the water in the second half last week. Josh's pick 5 upset cashes in virtue of extra time, 37-31. Congratulations, Josh.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad something hit this week. But the Seahawks definitely looked a lot better. Looked a lot more like that team we saw last year that showed flashes. Geno looked better. Eclipsed 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. The offensive line, okay, only allowed 1 sack. There was definitely some pressures that don't show up on the stat sheet. But overall, not bad for a ragtag unit put together without both your tackles. They also did not much on the ground in this game. You had, a total of 80 yards rushing. But in a shootout like this, you're going to lean on the pass. You got to get up and down the field quickly. Both offenses are moving, but you hope that
82 yards rushing.
82 yards rushing. Okay. But yeah, it's getting 43 yards, I believe, from Kenneth Gainwell. You hope for more out of that from your lead back on 20 plus carries? No, I'm sorry, just under
Kenneth
20
Walker.
carries. Kenneth Walker. Gosh, I am on one right now.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker. I apologize. Kenneth Walker, 17 carries, 43 yards. It's just, you got to establish the run game at some point. Geno can't be going out there and drop it back 40 plus times every game, especially not behind that offensive line. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a recipe for success this year. Detroit, their defense, you expect a little bit better. Expect more of a pass rush,
especially at this point.
Yeah.
Or was week one a mirage?
I don't know if it was a mirage, but
it's a mirage.
Yeah, definitely sucks to go lose your home opener like this.
And lose your Pro Bowl safety as well, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson out for the season.
Yeah, not good. Not good. But the pass rush concerns me more than anything against a beat-up Seattle offensive line and you get 1 sack. Got to have a little more production than that, I think, going forward.
Brad?
Yeah, I thought Detroit's offense played pretty well, especially against a defense that I thought coming into the season was going to be more improved. Seattle kind of willed their way back into this game. I thought Detroit kind of handled their business in the first half a little bit, but second half, Seattle really came out and just started airing it. I mean, Geno had a solid game. He looked like the Geno of last year. Would want to see more production out of the first round pick, Jackson Smith-Njigba, but at the same time, he had 5 catches, 34 yards, so not too bad on 6 targets. But like you said, Josh, Walker only averaging 2.5 yards a carry against a Detroit's rush defense that I don't think is all that great. I thought this would be the game that they could really establish that. But he did have the 2 rushing touchdowns. So that was nice to see. But I think the big MVP of the game was Geno. He played really well, especially bouncing back from week 1. He played really good. I thought Jared Goff played really good too. He had 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. He did have the interception, but I thought he played really well. Monte Brown, he's just a stud. I think he's going to continue to build off of what he's done these past 2 weeks. But yeah, losing C.J. Gardner-Johnson and potentially losing Montgomery for a couple games is going to be kind of concerning. Which maybe, Gibbs will be able to see more workload, but also Craig Reynolds getting, opportunities over Gibbs was kind of weird once Montgomery went out. I don't quite understand why they didn't really start giving the workload to Gibbs after Montgomery went out, but What do I know? But I thought Sam Laporta was actually really good too for the Lions. He's starting to, build his resume up and starting to become that number one tight end in Detroit, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. DK got a little banged up in this game too, right?
He did. He left the game at one
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
That'll be
left,
something
but then
to
came
keep an
back
eye
in.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll still be something to keep an eye on throughout the week. You never know how those injuries progress. But
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely left the game and came back in. This game feels like it happened years ago.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah.
Eagles 34, Vikings 28. This was a sleeper in the first half. The Eagles
Just putting it
blew
nicely.
the Eagles blew a lot of opportunities, just like the Vikings did too. There were 3 turnovers
God.
in the first half, I believe.
There was 3 turnovers in the span of like a minute and
Yeah.
a half.
Yeah, it really was. It was
really
like punt.
ugly.
Yeah, it was like punt,
Well, the Eagles muffed the
interception,
punt and
fumble,
recovered
fumble.
their own muff. So it
Yeah.
could have been worse. They muffed a punt,
yeah.
and then the Vikings muffed a punt right back after, a 3-and-out, I believe?
And look, the Eagles righted the ship in the second half, but Brian Johnson has some splaining to do for some of what he was doing in the first half. You were seeing tight end screens on 3rd and 17 and quarterback draws on 3rd and 8, and you're just like, what are we doing here?
Bad
Yeah,
offense.
exactly.
Real bad
Yeah.
offense.
In the first half. Second
First
half,
yes.
they figured it out.
Vikings also, I thought, got away from the run too quickly.
Yeah.
They gave up on it right away.
Yeah, never even gave it a second thought. There's no balance in that offense. There wasn't last year, and I don't really know why it was expected to be a more balanced offense this year when Dalvin Cook's out of the building and Madison's your lead back now. So I don't know where they go from here or how they get that balance back, but it does not look good when Kirk's got to go out there and win you every single ball game. He played well. And
Yeah,
really did.
He's played well the first 2 weeks.
He's been phenomenal the first 2 weeks. And it's just, there's only so much you can do with that defense and no running game. It's giving Matthew Stafford Detroit Lions vibes.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that means he'll get traded and he'll win a Super Bowl somewhere. So
Jets.
Do you think that we were laughing a lot about this backfield in Philadelphia of who the hell was RB1. They listed 4 guys on their depth chart for RB1, and man, DeAndre Swift, I think for the time being, put those talks to bed in this game, Brad.
Yeah, no, I talked about it week 1. I was shocked that he only had like 1 carry and 1 reception. Like, what are you like? I don't understand. You traded for the dude. You traded a 4th round, pick for him, and then the first game you just like completely ignore him and have Gainwell as your number 1 back. It made no sense. But thankfully, they came to their senses and started feeding Swift the ball, especially for fantasy purposes for myself. But he had a really good game. He had a really solid game. I think he kind of solidified his spot as RB1 going forward, if barring any injuries or anything like that. But yeah, the first half for Philly was kind of slow offensively. They were doing some really weird shit. I couldn't really wrap. Like, it kind of reminded me of Chicago's kind of like offensive scheme a little bit. I was like, what are we doing here? Like you said, like, why are we running a draw on 3rd and like 13? Like, it made no sense, especially with given how the run game with Swift was picking up, and they just kind of ignored it a little bit. They were trying to pass the ball a little bit too much. It wasn't balanced the way that we saw it last year. But thankfully, they kind of found their rhythm in the second half and kind of just, hey, Swift is, carrying the ball 6.3 yards a carry. We got to keep on feeding off it. Even Boston Scott, too, had 8 yards a carry. He was pretty nice, too. But I don't want to give away any credit to Kirk Cousins. He played a great game. I mean, especially against – I know the Eagles' secondary was kind of banged up going into this game, but still going into that stadium, home opener for the Eagles, The energy's going crazy. I'm sure it was loud as hell in there, and he kept his posture. He was really good. I know he had that fumble, but I think after that he kind of calmed down and really worked that defense. I mean, hell, if Jefferson doesn't fumble that ball, we're talking about that game possibly going into overtime, or possibly the Vikings even
a
winning it.
lot differently,
Yeah,
or
it's much
It
different
would have
than
been,
what we're
winning the
having
yeah.
right
game.
now. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I mean, you can have your opinion on that rule in the NFL. I'm kind of 50-50 on it. But
Not
I
a
mean,
fan
yeah, I
of
mean,
it.
if Jefferson,
Not a fan of
yeah,
it.
I mean, but if it doesn't make any sense why it would be,
You
given
fumble
back
the
to
ball
the
forward and out of bounds anywhere else on the field, the ball just returns
exact
to where you lost the fumble. Why does it need to be any
exactly
different there, in my opinion? But
exactly. But yeah, but I mean, Justin Jefferson had a hell of a game too.
he did. Played great.
Especially
Jordan Addison had a great game too.
yeah, he really did. He had that big touchdown pass, and even T.J. Hawkinson. T.J. Hawkinson had a really solid game too. I think the
Yeah,
Vikings
he's a
offense,
monster.
he really is. He's kind of solidifying himself as like up there as like one of the best tight ends in the league. But like you talked about, Josh, that run offense, it's just nowhere. You're not going to
Non-existent.
expect, yeah, especially with their plan to get rid of Cook, and with Madison, he didn't really show that much last year to make me feel like he would be able to take over that spot. So it was very weird that there was like, hey, here's the key to the backfield. Good luck,
Yeah.
buddy. Especially after losing Dalvin Cook, who did rush for 1,000 yards last year. Let's not, kind of forget that. But I think this is going to be a passing team. Kirk Cousins is going to be throwing the ball 45 times. Do I like that? No, but it just is. It is what it's going to be. But I am curious to see what the Vikings do. The same thing with the Jets. I think both of them, like you said, Josh, I could see them potentially going, hey, we have Kirk Cousins. We're in a position where we're not really going to win a lot this year. What can we do? What can we do?
Seems to
I
not agree.
could see it
That is
happening.
not
I really,
happening. That is
especially
not
if the
happening.
Jets.
Probably
But if
not.
the Jets are in a position where they can still contend for a playoff spot, but they need better quarterback play, I could see them hit up the Vikings and be like, hey, we know you guys aren't really going to do anything this year. We know Kirk
They
Cousins
would.
is on his last year.
So you're saying they're
It could
just going to
happen.
punt the season in week 3?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying. I think there's potential there. I think there's potential for a scenario where the Jets are in a little bit better of a position than the Vikings are, to where the Vikings would see it as an opportunity to be like, hey, let's start building up some draft capital. Let's look towards the future. Let's sign Justin Jefferson to a big contract and start looking for a rookie
I
quarterback to
think you're better
potentially pick
off.
up in the
I
draft.
think if we're talking hypotheticals, you're better off calling the Rams for Matthew Stafford.
Agreed.
I could, but would they want to do that within the NFC? I think that's a big question.
I personally think the NFC is deeper than the AFC this year.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So far, it might have seemed that way. We're moving on to Tennessee. Overtime, 27-24 for the Titans. They covered the 2.5, and the over ended up actually, I believe, hitting in regulation. So, Brandon Staley, we are here once again, bringing him up.
Oh, no.
His defenses have not been good. They have given up untimely third downs. They were horrible on third down in week 1. They were not great on third down yesterday. They were bad in the secondary. I mean, they played a pretty good game for most of it, and they were in control for a lot of it. Got out to that 11-0 start, and just little by little, punch by punch, Tennessee came back into this game and had the ball when they needed it after getting a stop. And that's the difference. Tennessee was getting timely stops and making them kick field goals instead of scoring touchdowns.
Yeah,
So
typical
Tennessee
Tennessee
gets
Titans
across the
grinded
line.
out football game for the Titans. Run the ball, play good defense, and eventually just wear the other team down and let the Chargers make the mistakes. It seems like they just always seem to make. Brandon
Chargering.
Staley's better be looking over his shoulder because
Can we officially say hot
waiting
seat?
in the wings.
Can we officially say hot seat?
Oh yeah, dude, it's the hottest seat.
I
It's the
don't
hottest
know.
seat. I texted you before the season, I believe, and said, I
Yeah,
can't. This was like a month before the season, said,
it's
I
definitely
can't
hotter.
wait. I can't
It's hotter.
wait for the Kellen
Yo.
Moore to take over talks. And they're
And
coming.
That could happen. Yeah.
And a super interesting game against a team I just feel like spent years talking about, the Minnesota Vikings, where both of those teams have their backs against the friggin' wall at 0-2,
Might
and the
be
loser is going to be
85 points scored in
0-3.
that game.
Yeah, and the
Because both
loser is going to be
defenses are
0-3.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I had to lean early, I know we're talking about that tomorrow, but I would lean Minnesota because I don't trust the Chargers to win a game right now.
Stay
Just
tuned.
because they keep shooting themselves in the foot, man.
It's bad.
Mhm.
It's not good for a defensive-minded coach to give up 27 points to the Titans.
The Titans. And Tannehill,
Made
20 of
Tannehill
24.
look awesome.
Tannehill was
After
20
he
of
was
24.
arguably the worst quarterback in football in League One.
Not arguably
Yeah.
the worst quarterback in week 1.
It
He was the worst
so
quarterback in
bad,
week 1.
dude.
That was the biggest thing that I noticed. Tannehill had a pretty efficient game. Like I said, like you guys said, compared to week 1. I mean, we're talking about Tannehill. Week 1 was 19 of 34 for like 196 yards and 3 interceptions. Like, and he comes out here and he looks like an all-pro. Like,
Sacked 5 times too.
he was sacked 5 times, but the pressure never felt like it was getting to him in this game, which is kind of surprising because last Sunday when he played the Saints, it seemed like the pressure was getting to him and he was making turnovers, which in this game, that was just not the case. The Chargers could not generate any turnovers in this game. Like you guys said, I don't think he's on the hot seat, Staley, but I mean, I think it's starting to warm up. I mean, you can't start this year 0-3, especially against a Tennessee team that was struggling very heavily week 1. And Tannehill did not. We were talking about Tannehill potentially losing his job week 1, and now he's kind of
that's
like
still coming.
Yeah, that's
it's still coming, but
That is
but
inevitable.
but the Chargers kind of gave him a week to like survive. They're like, all right, we'll give you a couple, a week or two to keep that job. But yeah, it's a problem over there, and for the Chargers in terms of defensively, and especially with the secondary that I thought was improved. You have Derwin James, who's a stud. You have Joey Bosa, who I think is a stud. I mean, he played pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you had 5
Sunday,
sacks by the Chargers defense in this game, but
yeah. So I mean, they did a little bit, but I mean, it was just letting Chubb go for 80 yards and a touchdown. I mean, not Chubb's, gosh, Henry go for 80 yards and a touchdown. Tajay Spears was averaging 6.1 yards a carry. The rookie. Especially with that receiving core too, it's very weak. I know they didn't really do too much in the receiving game, but like Tannehill was spreading the ball around. He was getting his playmakers to, make plays. This is what you always want. But that Chargers defense, man, I just do not know what's going on.
Giving up the deep ball to Ryan Tannehill is inexcusable.
Twice.
He's averaging 10. He's averaging 10 yards per attempt.
Yeah.
That is not Ryan Tannehill. That's not. I'm sorry. Like, what are you doing?
A whole lot of air yards.
How are you letting Treylon Burks get behind you?
That's arm talent.
Arm talent. Dude. That's all pro.
That's a great
all
take
pro
away from this
great
game.
scout word.
There's still 2 guys waiting and lurking in the shadows: Kellen Moore and Malik Willis. The Grim Reapers behind.
The grit of both teams.
Yeah, that's all I takeaway me from that game. But
I thought Justin Herbert had a really good game, but their rushing attack. Yeah, their rushing attack. I think they definitely missed Eckler this game. I think we were all pretty high on Kelly going into this game, but he didn't really do much at all. He only averaged 3 yards a carry. Didn't really do too much in the receiving game either. So that's something to keep an eye on with Eckler when he's actually going to be available for the Chargers, because I mean, first week they came out here and rushed for like I said, over 200 something yards, and then this week they only rushed for 61, which I've said it. The Titans defense is, it's really solid. That defense is very, very, very good. I think a lot of people don't give them the credit that they deserve. But Keenan Allen having a really good game. That was good to see. Allen, he's been kind of struggling with injuries the past few years, so good to see him have a really solid game. Yeah. But for the most part, yeah, the Chargers defense, man, I don't understand it.
Here's what I don't understand. 30-20. Time
My
ticking
lock
off
of
the
the
clock.
week.
Brad's lock of the week is on the ropes.
I'm in
But no,
shambles.
but Sean McVay decides, fuck that. We're
Yeah.
covering this spread, boys. Here's what I saw
Yeah,
on
dog, he had
Twitter,
money
though.
on it.
I
saw on
called him up,
Twitter-
dude. I was like, McVay, you can't do this, man. You cannot kick that field goal.
I
Cover the
saw on
spread.
Twitter/X, like whatever the fuck you want to call it, that this boils down to like very, 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 very low of the ladder tiebreaker implications. Like you have the first criteria, then the second criteria, then the third, and then it's a bunch more. And then, like, I guess one of the way down there criteria is points scored and point differential.
Yeah, give me a break. McVay knows the team's not competing this year, dude. Come on.
So he says, I'm out here to cover the spread.
Yeah, dude. Like,
No.
Hell yes.
I'm sorry, but
I love it.
I just refuse to think I mean, he probably is thinking about those tiebreaker scenarios, but this team's not competing for the playoffs this year. Yeah, they've been a nice story through 2 weeks of being competitive, but you're old in the key positions and you're super young everywhere else. These young
Dude.
guys are going to start making mistakes. Stafford's probably going to start breaking down again because he does it every year.
Yeah.
Just give me a break.
Puka Nakua with another
Puka
20
Nacua, dude.
targets.
He's
Dude.
better than Jerry Rice.
20 targets.
He's going to break
Give
the
me-
record this year.
Give me Puka Nakua. Fate of
Yep.
the universe. One shot. Give me Puka Nakua.
One shot.
This guy's balling, though. Let's
He's
not
so
go that
good.
far, but this guy's balling.
He's so
Yeah.
good.
49ers offense, a little vanilla at times, but it looks like they were moving the ball when they needed to. Got some timely stops. First half, though, the defense scared me a little bit. Defense looked very shaky in the first half.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
I
looked
thought-
like a team that knew they had this game at hand and wanted to just kind of keep the Rams at arm's length.
Mhm.
From
I
jump,
thought Brock Purdy played. Yeah, I thought Brock Purdy played a pretty efficient game. Nothing like eye popping, but in terms of, being the quarterback that the 49ers need him to be, I thought he played a pretty efficient game. I actually really loved seeing Deebo Samuel get some rushing attempts. I know that they kind of didn't really do that much week one, so it's kind of cool to see him back in the rushing attack. But listen, I'm high on the Rams. I don't care what you say. I really like what they're cooking up there. Let them cook. Puka Nakua, man, dude. Especially considering once Cooper Kupp comes back, that receiving threat is going to be way better than I think we all anticipated. Even Tutu Atwell, I thought he's slowly becoming a really solid receiver. I know he had that one game last year where he played us and had to play an emergency quarterback position, which was kind of hilarious to see that the Rams had gone from like Matthew Stafford to, I don't remember who their backup was,
Bryce
to Tutu
Perkins,
Atwell.
maybe?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. But now Van
Yeah.
Jefferson's role is essentially gone.
No, it is. Yeah, he's done.
Kyron Williams, another underrated
RB1.
storyline. He is
Yeah.
RB1. Cam Akers is on the block.
Yeah, he's done.
getting traded.
Yeah, he's gonna get traded.
Do you think they're going to trade him, or are they just going to release him?
One of the two. He'll be out of
Yeah.
the door before
Yeah.
the buy or before
I
the
think
trade
so.
Yeah.
deadline, whichever comes first.
I mean,
haven't-
yeah,
They're going to try to get something for him, though.
yeah, but even if
Cleveland
it's like
could
a
hit
sixth
him up.
rounder. Yeah, could be a fit.
Yeah.
You said you liked what you saw from Purdy. I can agree, did some good things, but he also had, I think it was 3 glaring misses, 3 open.
He missed a
deep
few
shot
guys.
touchdowns.
Yeah.
He missed a few
One
guys.
that I can recall, and what I think it was a sluggo to Brandon Ayuk, was easy 6, and he missed him by 4 or 5 yards.
Yeah.
And so that's a little concerning. I mean, a guy coming off of an arm injury, he's probably not fully back to feeling like himself yet, even though he looked great in week 1. So you hope for that to get cleaned up in the coming weeks.
You would think and you would hope, right?
Oh yeah, too good of a team not to figure that out.
I felt frustrated for the Packers in this next game. Atlanta 25, Green Bay 24. The total ended up getting across the finish line in the second half. The Green Bay, talk about a defense letting them down. We talked about Denver earlier. I think Green Bay's did big time in the second half. And honestly, could have been worse. Could have been 3 touchdowns and not 2 touchdowns, or a touchdown and 2 field goals.
Yeah. I just don't know how you let, what was it, a 12-point deficit, right?
24 to 12.
Yeah. You had a 12-point deficit, and you allowed Desmond Ridder to come back and beat you. I don't understand how that happens. A team that cannot throw down the field, virtually. And it just doesn't make sense to me. With that good of a defense, there's no excuse for it. Yeah, you got to sustain a little more offense, too, down the stretch there and try to milk the clock. A.J. Dillon was a little disappointing in the run game, I thought.
Absolutely, he was.
A lot of short yardage carries that he was not able to convert. That's very surprising for a back of his size and talent. So, I don't know. They definitely gave one away here, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
Not in what that division looks like it could potentially be with Detroit.
Well, tied at 1-1 with Detroit.
Yeah, but I think Detroit's got a
with
little
a
bit
game,
of a leg up.
With a game at Lambeau a week from Thursday.
That'll be a big-time game.
Yeah.
Yes, it will.
It'll be a big-time game.
Brad?
I thought this was, I know last Sunday, Bijan Robinson had a pretty solid game. This was Bijan Robinson's coming out party. Like, he was their offense all game. He was super stellar in the run game and the receiving game. I was surprised by how poor the rush defense for Green Bay was. I mean, obviously they're going up against a 2-headed monster with Atlanta's rush attack, but I thought they would be able to hold their own a little bit more, but that was not the case. It was Bijan's game. He was super, super good. I thought Desmond Ridder in the second half kind of came into his own a little bit and kind of proved me wrong from how he played in the first half. Jordan Love had a really good first half, but in the second half, he was kind of non-existent for the most part. It seemed like they were just trying to, kill the clock and try to get out of there, which ended up costing them because Atlanta came back to win the game. But for the most part, I thought this was another solid game for Atlanta's rush attack. I mean, they had 211 yards, averaging 4.7 yards a carry. Even Desmond Ridder, he had 10 attempts for 39 yards, which was kind of surprising to see him kind of in the run game a little bit too. But
they ran him on read options a lot.
Yeah, they did.
So they got in the end zone. So they got in the end zone.
Yeah.
Very surprising. I will say one thing: get Kyle Pitts out of fucking Atlanta. Get him out of there. I mean, they do not know how to use that man, and when he's wide open, they just do not give him. I do not get it. He could be a generational tight end, and Atlanta just
anywhere else.
I don't anywhere. I mean, literally anywhere. I mean, he could play fucking
Ronnie Chance had more targets.
Send him to Kansas City. Let him split out a wide out in Kansas City.
Oh my God, that would be nasty. That would be nasty. But I don't understand. I mean, I get Desmond Ridder isn't that type of quarterback,
but
at the same time, yeah, exactly. At the same time, it's like, bro, you can't do that. I mean, Matt Ryan, old Matt Ryan, towards the end of his career, who could not do shit, was getting Kyle Pitts the ball. Like, you got to find ways, especially in the red zone too. Like, dude's a fucking freaking nature. Throw it up to him. That's all Ritter's got to do is go start right up to him. Let him snag it, but get him out. Get him out of there. You can get some nice draft picks for him. Just get him out of there.
How good would he be in Dallas too?
Oh Jesus Christ!
Don't even throw that out into the universe. I don't need that.
Trust me, I don't need that either with my 49ers playing them in a couple of weeks on Sunday Night Football. AFC North double dip this weekend, and the Baltimore Ravens are 2-0. The Bengals, the opposite, 0-2. Very good start to Josh's predictions on that one. Over 45.5, ends up at a cozy, looks like 51. And This game, honestly, even though the score was close at the end, this game felt like it belonged to the Ravens from jump. And
It
that
was
punt
never
return was
close.
really the only thing that kept the Bengals in this game.
Yeah, this game was never close in my opinion. As a guy that was on Bengals -3.5, I knew it was chalked from the start. I mean, the Ravens pretty much manhandled this game, did anything they wanted to on both sides of the ball. Their offense looks good, even though it's still not really clicking on all cylinders, which is impressive with a new system. Lamar looks like he's taken the next step as a passer, which is big. Hate seeing Odell get kind of banged up there, but Zay Flowers seems perfectly capable of being your wide receiver one, and you still got guys like Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. So you still got targets to spread the ball out to. Gus Edwards looked really good, so I don't think that running game's going anywhere either. But the defense, as long as that defense stays healthy and continues to play like it is, the Ravens may be the number one team in the AFC.
They're looking like it already. Just 2 games in, Brad.
Yeah,
Just
definitely
as
look
I
like the number one
predict.
team in that division. Not really close at this point, I don't think, with
Yeah.
what you've seen from the other 3 teams.
Just as I predicted, the Ravens are going to be the team to beat in the AFC. I thought the Bengals kind of started off a little bit slow. Like you said, this game was not really one that should have been this close. The Ravens had control of this game up till the fourth quarter, especially with that punt return too. Which was that punt return? It was in the fourth quarter. Or was that a little
No, it
bit
was
earlier
early.
on?
First
It was
quarter.
early. Okay, yeah, but
Or early second.
but for me, the biggest thing was Joe Burrow's play. I know we talked a little bit about his calf injury. I going into the season, I didn't see it as a big concern, but apparently for Burrow, it kind of is a big concern. He
That was my
talked a little
biggest
bit.
concern.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be that big of a concern, but it definitely is now because Burrow's talking about it, saying how it's kind of affecting his game. He might not.
Oh, yeah.
He's talking about he might not even play week 3.
Oh, I don't think he's going
So
to.
yeah, so it is very concerning that
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the case, and he just doesn't seem comfortable right now, especially I guess with that injury still longing
I can't remember. Is
going
that on
on.
his right leg or is it his left leg?
I think it's his right leg. Yeah, I'm pretty
I was
sure it's
going to
his
say,
right
I
leg.
think if it's his
I
right
thought it
leg, I
was his
definitely.
right. It's his plant.
Yeah.
It's his plant
Yeah,
leg
it's
for
his
sure.
drive. That's I mean, anybody that's
Yeah.
ever thrown a football or played the quarterback position,
Yeah,
it's important to be able to drive off that back leg, or you're not going to be able to make the throws you need to make. You're not going to be able to get the same velocity on the ball. The ball's not going to get there on time like it needs to, and I think you're seeing that right now from Burrow. That's a big
yeah,
concern, and I don't know when we're going to see him play again, honestly. I mean, you saw him on the sideline with the massage gun running it on that calf.
Yeah.
That's not a good look because you're
No.
also
Yeah.
showing the other team it's bothering you. And if you're
yeah,
showing that, you do not need to be out on the field playing, especially when you just get this
yeah,
big money, long term contract. Punt this
yeah. You
season at
don't
this
want. Yeah,
point. You're 0-2. You're playing like crap. Set him down until he's healthy. There's no point in
yeah,
risking it. Don't jeopardize the
yeah,
long term future of this team.
Correct.
yeah. But for the most part, I thought the Ravens played really good offensively. Like you said, I thought Gus Edwards kind of stepped up in that role of the
Yeah.
lead back. He had 10 carries for 62 yards and a touchdown, averaging 6.2 yards a carry. So that's gonna win you a lot of games when you have that efficient run game and efficient pass game too. I thought that, like you said, I think Lamar is becoming that pocket quarterback that I think a lot of people always wanted him to be. So that's nice to see him, climb in the pocket, taking those reads, checking it down when he needs to.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers continues to be a stud. I think that he is slowly building his way up to being their number one receiver. Odell, what's his status? I know that he got hurt, he got banged up a little bit, but I didn't really know too
I don't
much
know
about it.
officially, but it's just kind of seems like another lingering issue for him. Something
Yeah,
that's probably not going to go away. And I don't know
yeah,
the official report on it, but it's never good to see him in week 2 already banged up. So
Yeah. But I mean, hell, Nelson Aguilar coming in and having a pretty solid game for the Ravens too was kind of surprising to see.
Yeah.
He had a
Caught a
pretty nice
touchdown.
game too. Yeah, and he had 5 catches for 63 yards. So, and Mark Andrews coming back too. I thought he played pretty good for the amount of targets that he had. He led the team in targets, so that's good to see. So, yeah, I mean, I've been really high on the Ravens. I predicted them to win the Super Bowl, so far they're looking pretty solid.
Yep.
We need to have a dialogue.
Tampa
Tampa Bay 27,
talk.
Chicago 17. Tampa Bay easily covers the number. Bro, I know we've all seen the video on Twitter that's been circulating about how they ran the same screenplay 3 times in a row. In the 2-minute drill, when they were down 3 in the fourth quarter, ran the same play 3 times in a row. Earlier this week, I said Matt Canada, a lot of people call him the worst offensive coordinator in the NFL, especially Steelers fans. They love to say it. Luke Getsy's on the phone, brother, and he would like to have a word with you about that. This guy stinks.
Yeah.
27-17, a big reason.
I think that not just Luke Getsy, Matt Eberflus, Justin Fields, everyone.
When's anyone going to talk about Matt Eberflus? I never hear this guy's name ever.
It's time to burn it down. Everyone involved needs to be out. I mean, you need to absolutely clean house, in my opinion, at this point. Nothing is working. Good. Nothing is working. You just traded for DJ Moore, and he looks like he's ready to jump ship after week 2. Yeah,
which he did have a better game. Yeah, he did have a better game.
Oh yeah, he had a better game. But guess what? You still lost by 10 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah,
I don't care that they're 2-0. They are not a competitive football team in the grand scheme of things this year. Like they're not going to be a positive team in the win column this year. I don't think they're getting the 9 wins. Like,
who?
This team, huh? The Bucks. The Bucks are not getting the 9 wins.
Yeah, probably not.
The Bucks are not a good team.
No.
I thought you were talking about the Bears. 10.
I was like,
oh no,
what?
The Bears may not get to 2 wins, dog.
Yeah, dude,
bro, the Bears gonna turn it around. They're gonna win 11 games, dude.
Yeah, they look like a team that's a prime candidate to have a shot to go get a quarterback, because not only is their pick going to be really good, so is their pick from my Carolina Panthers, because we are also terrible.
Picks are going to be very good.
So this game, Baker looked good. Hard not to look good against that Bears defense right now. Not a whole lot. I feel like we learned from this game that we didn't see last week, other than it's time to call it quits in Chicago for everybody involved and start over, I think.
Next week at Kansas City.
Bloodbath. Maybe. Hey, under.
Yeah.
Oh, it's at Kansas City?
Yeah, it's at Arrowhead.
I don't care. It could be on the moon, dog.
I don't know. It could be a Kelsey.
Nothing.
It could be a Kelsey legacy game. He could just go absolutely ape shit on that defense.
I don't think the Bears score 3 points on that defense. On that Chiefs defense. But we'll talk about that one tomorrow.
Yeah. My biggest thing here is Justin Fields. I mean, I thought he was going to be able to take that next step, and be the quarterback that the Bears have been desperately needing for decades. I mean, literally decades. They've never had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards
in their franchise history.
Yeah, it sucks. It really does suck for the Bears, but at the same time, Justin Fields has to be better. I know that you guys talked about the 2 back-to-back screenplays that made absolutely no fucking sense to call, especially in the 2-minute drill. Made no sense. But other than that, I mean, Fields wasn't really all that great. He was holding on to the ball too much. He was allowing, Tampa to get some sacks. I mean, he got sacked 6 times. You don't want that with your starting quarterback. DJ Moore had a pretty good game. But outside of that, the receivers didn't really do too much. So I was expecting Mooney to kind of be their number 2, but he didn't do any. Did he get hurt?
I'm really not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure, honestly.
Because
I think
if he
there's just no production in this offense really anywhere.
yeah, because if he didn't get hurt, he went from the first week having like what 6 catches or something like that to having no targets in this game. So that is very concerning. Their run team is
He
their
did get
runners
hurt.
are not. He did get hurt. Okay. So that's good to clarify. But their rush attack is not existent. I think Roshan Johnson is going to eventually take over that number one spot
Yes.
in the running back room. But
He's the most productive.
yeah, he is. But like you weren't really banking. You were banking on Khalil Herbert to be that guy, and he hasn't really been doing much of anything. So that is concerning. Fields didn't really do anything in the rushing attack either. I mean, the Bucks, they played really good against a bad defense. There's nothing really surprising about how they played offensively. I will say their rushing attack was a little bit better this week compared to the first week. Rashad White had a really solid game on the ground and in the receiving area, so that's good to see that he's kind of solidifying. I mean, like obviously he's the only back that I think they feel very comfortable with right now. Baker is looking good. I gotta kind of eat crow right there, but at the same time, it's first 2 weeks he's not really playing against defenses that are all that great, So it is a little bit like, oh hey, look, he's playing terrific right now, but it's like he's not really played against tougher competition, which this week he will be because don't they play the Eagles this week? Is it the Eagles
On Monday night.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, so
At home.
that's definitely going. Yeah, and especially Bradbury. I don't know if Bradbury is coming back, but I think Blankenship should be back. So that Eagles secondary will be a little bit better than it was against the Vikings. So that's going to be a definite big test for the Bucks. But yeah, Chicago, their offense is not clicking, their defense isn't clicking. Like you said, I think sooner rather than later we're going to start seeing a lot of firings and a lot of steps to move into the future with how they want that team to be run.
Bounce back game for the Buffalo Bills, 38-10, the final in Buffalo. The Raiders came out right away and punched them in the mouth, and then after that, it was never close from there on out. I think Josh Allen needed that game, and it helps you come back to your senses a little bit. Like, dog, he's not going to have another 4-turnover game this season.
No, probably not.
No.
Good confidence boost for Josh Allen. Bills good, Raiders bad. Yeah, that's this game in a nutshell.
They
The
sure looked like the teams that we thought they would be.
Yeah, I think
the most glaring
in the past, and both these teams are gonna regress to the mean.
Yeah. The most glaring stat line in this game is Josh Jacobs. 9 carries for -2 yards.
Oh, I didn't even see that. That's terrible.
I do not understand that. That is so bad.
Sorry,
especially for a guy that's like, yeah, exactly.
Had a bunch of catches,
especially for he did have 5 receptions for 51 yards, but
thanks, Jimmy G.
For a guy that's been holding out and wanting that big contract, for him to have a performance like that is just, and especially with the Raiders because they drafted Zamar White to kind of give a little bit of a competition in that running back room, and he kind of built his case to be like, hey, I can build off the opportunities that I'm given, while Josh Jacobs is sitting there with 9 carries for -2 yards. That's not impressive at all. I feel like that hurts his stock going forward, especially against a rush attack with the Bills that gave up I feel like almost like 150 yards to the Jets offense on Monday night. So it's a little bit concerning that the Raiders weren't really able to move the ball all that well on the ground against the Bills. But like you said, Josh, it's Bills good, Raiders bad. That's really about it.
This next game was a tale of two halves, really, as well. Arizona jumps out to a 20-0 lead. Goes into halftime up 20-0, up 28-7, and Daniel Jones probably plays the best half of his football career, 31-28, and the survivor lives on. Go G-Men.
Yeah, the Giants finally strung a couple decent quarters together. I mean, they played arguably the worst 6 quarters of football
Easily
to
the
start a
worst.
season we've ever
60
seen.
minutes, or what was it? 75 minutes
Something
and
like
no
that. And no
90 minutes, no points.
yeah,
90 minutes,
90
no
minutes,
points.
no points. Yeah. Hopefully what we saw in the second half is what we can expect to see the rest of the season for the Giants, at least for my sake and my prediction's sake. Um, the Cardinals gave away a golden opportunity to win a football game, which is something I don't think they're going to have a lot of opportunities to do.
No.
So, yeah, they're still not a good football team. I don't care that they scored 28 points. The Giants hopefully will be better from this. Daniel Jones played a good half. The only real storyline from this game, I think, is Saquon Barkley being out for the next 3 weeks. But reportedly now he's going to try to play Thursday night. I don't see how that's going to happen with an ankle sprain. But yeah, if he's going to miss any significant time, that's going to be very, very detrimental to the Giants offensively.
No, big time. And I do feel like they're already rushing him back. Like
Yeah,
talking
they don't
about
need
having
to
him
do
play
that.
on Thursday.
So I don't know
Yeah,
how he's
no.
going to do that. He must be superhuman if he's going to do that.
A lot
I
of
mean,
Toradol.
I did talk to Brett. I remember when he tore his ACL a couple years ago or something like that, and he got hurt like week 2 and then came back like week 10. So like he kind of is Superman a little bit when it comes to that. But yeah, that game was
Just not smart.
if
Not smart.
if the Giants were playing an above average team in that game, they're losing that game.
Oh,
Like
easily. They
Yeah,
don't
so
go against
they're-
anybody else. Yeah,
they're lucky they were
anybody else.
they were lucky they were playing a Cardinals team who was looking to get that first pick next year. So
This next one was ugly, and Brad was there for it. 20-17, New Orleans tops Carolina. I think New Orleans might be decent, but sometimes I think they might be pretty good. But sometimes on offense, especially in third and short, third and medium, I'm just like shaking my head so very often.
Derek Carr
Yeah.
concerns me.
Yes,
I don't know
some of
about
those,
you, Brad.
some of those throws,
He
dude.
concerns me. The interception was atrocious.
yeah, trust me,
I
don't know who he was throwing to.
I was sitting there. I was like, oh my! As soon as he dropped
Doing it in
back,
triple coverage.
I was like, I know exactly where he's going to. And my thing was throughout this whole entire game was that the offensive line it's becoming a concern for me because week 1 against the Titans, which like I said, I think the Titans have a pretty underrated defense. They were getting up a lot of sacks to the
Carr
to the
got hit
Titans.
a lot, didn't he?
He did. He got hit a lot in week 1, and then in this game he got sacked 4 times. So the offensive line has become a big concern for me. I think it's exactly what happened week 1 against the Titans. The Saints offense kind of came out sluggish in the first half, but in the second half they kind of just did what they're supposed to do. The rush attack was a lot better this week compared to week 1, especially with them giving it to Taysom Hill. I have no idea why the Saints do not like utilizing Taysom Hill the way that they should be. I think there's like
I thought every time that they were like third and medium or third and 2 or something, he was lining up in the shotgun.
I would be more concerned about them not using Chris Olave more. He should be touching the ball every other play.
Yeah. No, that one-handed catch, dude, I stood up. I was like, that's what the fuck I'm talking about. Like that's why we drafted him. But to me, the biggest concern was the offensive line. I think also going back on the Taysom Hill conversation, I think there's a like crazy stat line where like every time he has like 10 plus carries, the Saints are like fucking 13-3 with like that kind of overall record. So that's kind of crazy to think about, that when he's actually given opportunities to, touch the ball, they have a better win percentage. So it's kind of weird that they kind of just back off of them. But Derek Carr doesn't concern me too much, but it's more so the offensive line because they're not giving him a lot of time to throw the ball, because it felt like every time he dropped back, he was either have to rush on the outside, try to pick up some kind of yardage, or he was sitting in the pocket and he has to make a quick throw that could result in something pretty bad. But the pick was on him because that was a terrible throw, awful. But the defense played really well. I think that if this defense stays healthy, it could be a top 5 defense. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore, I talked about in our preview. Going into the offseason, there was a lot of talk about him being back to his prime self, and it just seemed like I think right now he's only allowed like 5 catches for the first 2 weeks, so like he's like back to where he was. This defense is generating a lot of sacks, which wasn't really the case last year, and generating more turnovers. I think last year we had like 7 turnovers for the whole entire season. So now we have I think 5 turnovers through first 2 weeks. So that's very uplifting to see. But yeah, very sloppy game. It could have got out of hand if the Saints would have capitalized on red zone opportunities. And yeah, but I had a great time. It was fun. The energy was, like I said, very electric in that stadium. Opening night on a Monday night, prime time. So yeah, me and Tristan had a really good time.
Nice.
That should be what it's all about, too. Bryce Young making his first start as a Panther as well.
Yeah.
At home, that is. And,
thought he looked better from week 1 to week 2 in areas. But
yeah, and it's going to keep getting better throughout the year, I think. But they don't really – I feel like the cupboard is very bare of what they can call on offense.
There's no continuity. I read a stat today. I think they returned the fewest amount of offensive starters of anyone in the league. I think it was like 30 or 33% of their starters from last season returned to the team this year. So you have no familiarity. Your brand new coaching staff doesn't know how to use any of their weapons yet. We're trying to figure out how this team kind of meshes together. And I'll tell you, Adam Thielen having 9 targets, not going to be a recipe for success offensively. 3 years ago maybe, but he can't run anymore. he can get open, but once he has the ball in his hands, no juice.
Final game. It was supposed to be rookie versus rookie, but that was taken away from us from the football gods. Indianapolis still cruises, though, with the Minshew Mania man running the offense. 31-20 for Indianapolis. Soars over the total of 40. Indianapolis and Houston were trading between even line, underdog, favorite, pretty much all week long. Zach Moss carved into a little bit of a niche, I think, in this game. We don't know if we'll see Jonathan Taylor or not, but I think that's important for them going forward to have at least something to lean on in the run game. I have not heard anything about Anthony Richardson yet. However,
I think he was dealing with a concussion.
I know, but I'm talking about this week.
He'll play this week.
Right.
Yeah, he probably won't play this week. Yeah.
In Baltimore? I don't know. We don't know anything yet.
I would not bring him back this week against Baltimore. After him getting injured 2 weeks in a row.
On the road.
Especially what we saw them do with CJ Stroud week 1. I mean, they were getting at Stroud pretty nicely week 1, so I wouldn't risk it.
Yeah, it's a shame because, like you said, the football gods took it away from us. Because through a quarter and a half,
he was balling.
Anthony Richardson looked awesome. And I don't think the result of this game obviously is any different from him going out. But I think the way they got there would have been very different, and we would have gotten to see a lot from Richardson. So that's very upsetting. Stroud looked okay. I mean, if you just look at the box score, he looked awesome. Over 300 yards. He got through his first touchdown. He looked a little deeper. There's some bad mistakes on passes thrown across his body and just kind of throwing the ball up rather than throwing it away. Typical rookie mistakes that I'm sure he'll clean up. But, yeah, the stats don't tell the whole story on him, I don't think. I know 384 yards, 2 touchdowns. Looks awesome. But there's a lot of underlying mistakes there that you hope get cleaned up and probably will get cleaned up from a rookie. But, yeah, just a shame we didn't get to see how this would have played out with both rookies playing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough go, for real. especially hitting your head on the turf like that. That's
Yeah.
one of those things that
Yeah.
where he's going to be kept out for
Surprised
sure.
he didn't get pulled immediately from that, to be honest with you.
Well, I think
Yeah,
they
he
said
went
that
back
he
out and
pulled
continued to
himself.
play. Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
but I'm surprised he didn't go
pulled
into
himself.
protocol after that, because that's a key sign for a concussion. Head slamming and ricocheting off the turf the way it did.
Mhm.
Good for him then.
Yeah.
Good for
A
him
lot
for
of guys
self-reporting.
wouldn't.
Yep.
I will say, Nico Collins. I've been high on Nico Collins. He had a
Yeah.
really solid game. 7 catches,
Great through 2
146
weeks.
yards, and a touchdown. Yeah, I've been very high on him. I will say John Mechie didn't really do too much. This was his
It's
first
the
game.
Tank Dell show.
Yeah, it really is. It really
the
is.
Tank Dell show.
Tank Dell, as it
Which
should be.
which is kind of
Tank Dell can play.
which is kind of
Yes.
yeah, which is kind of disappointing because I was really high on John Mechie last year. So to see
There's still
him,
time.
yeah, there is some time. I know
His
he
first
did
game.
miss all last year, so yeah,
Yeah.
I think that receiving
There's a
core
lot of
can be
promise.
something.
There's a lot of promise.
Yeah,
in
there really
Houston.
is. Young
A lot of
promise.
promise for both
I think
these
that's the key
teams.
thing. Yeah.
They like to throw the ball, that's for sure. 47 chucks
Yeah.
for CJ Stroud.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks in a row of him over 40 attempts, I believe.
Yeah, no doubt. Right on the hour and a half mark. That's it for week 2. We look ahead to week 3 tomorrow. And, I hope that we can get at least some form of semblance of what we saw last week. I thought this past week was awesome. I thought in a lot of areas, a lot of big plays, a lot of great games, a lot of close calls. But we'll be here to preview week 3, talk about how much I suck in pick 5 and much more.
Same.
Hey,
Yeah,
I'm the only one that has negative points. I have negative points.
I went 5 and 2 overall. Like with my overall picks.
3 and 2.
3 and 2. Hey.
Yeah, I think
that's why it's called pick 5.
I went 2 and 3. I believe,
that's right. That's
but
right.
I hit my underdog.
That's why you have 1 point. We'll get into that tomorrow. But until then, we'll be signing off.